In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look here at a major coastal system that is going to impact areas from South Florida all the way up through Maine and the rest of New England for that matter. The various impacts will obviously include heavy rainfall. We know that. Strong winds, large waves, so a lot of surf going on. We're going to have a lot of things going on like that. It is important to note that impacts will vary location to location. We do have an interesting phenomenon happening with this system now where it is going to intensify off the southeast and then kind of transfer a lot of that energy. And I'll kind of walk you guys through that later. But areas in the middle, like my neck of the woods, Virginia, might not see as bad of impacts as originally anticipated. Whereas the more southeastern people and areas more towards the mid-Atlantic and northeast might see a little bit worse than areas in the middle, all from one storm. So I just wanted to show it on radar here. Let's go ahead and move into the modeled guidance. Now, as we take a look, this is as of this afternoon on Friday the 10th. Let's move this towards Saturday the 11th here. And what we see is this low is located right there off the southeast. Again, pretty intense as far as impacts. We do see widespread impacts from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina coast there. Florida still getting some activity from this one. So this is definitely a pretty impactful system. We've been talking about it for a while. We look out west, and you definitely see a lot of precipitation happening up here in the Pacific Northwest, also down through the Four Corners States areas. We do just have a lot of activity overall ongoing. Looking towards Sunday here on the 12th of October, we do see 997 here. This is continuing to intensify, bringing impacts to areas from Georgia all the way through South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, maybe even you could argue West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey here as well. But we already see this is the center of low pressure right then. We do see some lower pressure up here to the north, so it's an elongated area of low pressure. And what we're going to see is a lot of this energy is just going to kind of like transfer to the northern area of this low. And that is going to happen here between Sunday and Monday, according to this model. Again, this is just one model, but this is kind of the guidance that we've been seeing, storms backing off, or models backing off a little bit from the impacts. And at this point, it's a good time to note we do have a strong low over south central Canada with a very impactful cold front actually stretching through a lot of the Midwest and plains here. So thunderstorms and showers are going to be a pretty big possibility there. We also see some wintry weather up there in the Northwest, definitely going to be impactful. And we've been seeing a lot of that on the model guidance recently. So winter is starting to arrive for a lot of these high elevation locations. By Monday afternoon, we've seen this transfer fully take place of energy. Now it's 1001 there offshore of the mid-Atlantic and northeast. So the reason why some of these areas kind of north of that line and south of this line have maybe been spared from the very, very brunt of it. I still want everybody to take it very seriously because there still is very serious impacts to everybody up and down the East Coast. But because this transfer happens, the low is never here, right? It completely dodges those areas because it's here and then it transfers to here. It's never in this middle circled in one here at any point on this particular model run, which is definitely going to lead to some less impacts there for areas in the middle. Tuesday the 14th here, the low is already starting to move kind of offshore here, so we're left kind of dry along the East Coast for Tuesday the 14th. We do see a lot of precipitation here, again, throughout the Southwest, Four Corner States, the Rockies, a lot of the plains here, upper Midwest. Lots of activity ongoing. By Wednesday here on the 15th of October, we do see a lot of precipitation around, still in similar areas, again, west into the Rockies, into the northern plains. We do see a low starting to form in eastern Colorado here. Also take note of this jet stream kind of flow. Definitely going to kind of probably swing this thing northward. Let's see what goes ahead and happens. But yeah, we see this thing really generally move northward. It takes a while there actually, but by Friday afternoon, it's all the way in North Dakota. This one starts out looking like a system that's going to be very dynamic, and on paper it is. We can clearly see where the warm front is following these red lines, and a pretty clear signature of a cold front here. So again, very dynamic system, rising warm air in what we would call the warm sector in this area. And there is some push of cold air just to the east of the Rockies because of this low. But it's an overall pretty low precipitation cold front is what we'd call it. Relatively dry in there, but we can tell by the lines that temperature-wise there is a cold front happening. there is a little showery activity happening along that warm front for Friday. Saturday here on the 18th, we see that original low goes ahead and kind of swings back over into south central Canada. We see another transferring of energy happening here as we get a low forming now over Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, as well as parts of Michigan. Some broad low pressure in there, bringing overall heavier showers and precipitation as a whole. We also see another low forming in eastern Colorado all over again. Very cold air in the west by this frame with a rising warm air motion for a lot of the east here. But there is a ton of snowfall here happening across all of the Rockies, which has again been just happening a lot more as we're rapidly descending into this wintry type activity. 992 forming now between Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas there, with snowfall for Colorado, New Mexico, parts of Wyoming, and Nebraska, with more thunderstorm, maybe even severe weather activity off to the east of it. This is relatively far out though, hours 2:22, so we're approaching the 10-day mark here. Take it with a grain of salt. But by Monday, the 20th, we do see this low really gets dynamic with the cold front. We see a very evident cold front there. A bit of a warm front that is lower in precipitation overall. So again, you've got the rising warm air ahead of that cold front, and that's why we get the most brutal temperature gradients in these cold fronts, because you're going from a rising warm air pattern that makes things a little bit warmer than they would normally be, and then you're getting this swinging cold front. So that makes the kind of contrast between these two air masses even more extreme. We can just see the flow of colder air just flowing straight in from Western Canada, and it's moving towards the east here, the 20th. So let's take a look at what ends up happening Tuesday here on the 21st. Lots of precipitation now from that cold front over the eastern states. Continuing wintry activity there over the northern Rockies. Still very intense up there. Wednesday on the 22nd, we see that cold front comes through, and it doesn't fully set in the cold air. We do see colder air behind it, and we do see warming along the west coast, which is going to aid in kind of swinging this cold air into the east. We do see some precipitation along that boundary. Let's keep this going though. Thursday on the 23rd here, clearly ridge in the west, trough in the east type pattern. Again, out ahead of things, rising warm air persistent a little bit, and that does bring on shore some more tropical type showers and thunderstorms here in the southeast for Thursday the 23rd. By Friday the 24th, we kind of get a coastal system forming along a cold front that just really rapidly pops up for the east. Very high precipitation here between Thursday and Friday the 24th. We do warm back up after that is said and done though. Looking at the total precipitation, there's no surprise that there is quite a few improvements. We still see these areas generally looking pretty good. There is some dry areas in between the higher amounts, but if you take this as a whole, majority of areas are doing quite well as far as precipitation. The deep south, at least parts of it, and then up the east coast have also improved. Texas is kind of the main concern for lack of precipitation there in this case. But once you kind of cross the Arkansas and Louisiana borders with Texas and Oklahoma, you start to improve those amounts to at least near normal for the deep south. Let's look at these anomalies. And again, in these areas, it is still quite dry. But maybe Arkansas is still quite dry. The averages are very high down there, but maybe more like the Mississippi border eastward here. We're pretty neutral to above average for a lot of these areas. And the East Coast is again quite close to normal as well. And then out west, hardly any dry areas. It's really far above average for a majority of areas in the north central and western states. Total snowfall as a result of that above average western precipitation has increased even further than what we've been seeing daily, which has been increasing. So it makes sense, but this is just a lot of snowfall. We're talking in feet, not inches at this point. You can see the bar there at the bottom of your screen to get an idea for what each color means, but I'm sure none of you live in the really high elevation locations in here. So the majority of you that live in like populated areas nearby some of these mountain ranges are probably seeing less than a foot. It's safe to guess that, but there is some people maybe watching this video that see a lot. But either way, color codes at the bottom. Here's the temperatures. We are a little cooler right now compared to normal along the east. We do warm up, however, as we reach kind of early next week, Monday the 13th, Tuesday the 14th. Very cold in the west, which typically just brings warmer into the east. We do see this flow of cold air. We call it a backdoor cold front because it's kind of coming from a unusual direction here, almost straight down or almost from the east a little bit. And this kind of takes over with a similar pattern to what we're seeing late this week today, like on Friday. The 10th here, we're seeing similar conditions along the East Coast, maybe something similar happening towards the end of next week as well. We do warm back up after that one as well, but then the actual true cooler air from a more typical standpoint moves in from Western Canada, moves through the kind of central states and into the east after the 20th time frame. The GFS model is actually going to be quite similar. We get the cooler air, we warm back up, we do get this backdoor cold front. Well, it's a little less major on this one. Then we do see a cooler pattern kind of starting off around the 20th, 21st. It doesn't establish itself, and then we get an even bigger cool down here around the 24th, 25th, 26th, which of course is extremely far out. And that's like 14, 15 days out. So take it with a grain of salt, but we do have good agreement between these models. With all that being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.